Coming up, Inspector Pete Moss, Tracer of Lost Persons. In this production I produced for Hugh Barr, my boss at WHAS, we attempt to discover missing bodies, or should I say Inspector Pete Moss, played by Gary Burbank, attempts to explain some most unusual numbers in a recent radio ratings report. The use of humor to bring out certain facts or positions of view can be very effective, as I think this production demonstrates. Here's Inspector Pete Moss investigating all those missing people. And if you detect a little Inspector Clouseau of Pink Panther fame, well, you just might be right. Only the accent has been changed to protect copyrights. Go get 'em, Pete.
Welcome, and join us now for the case of the missing 400,000. 1 million adult lives are centered on Louisville. What happens when 400,000 turn up missing? Listen as we hear the confident voice of Inspector Pete Moss, Tracer of Lost Persons, respond to this calamity.
Missing? 400,000 adults is missing? That's a lot of shirts, skirts, bank accounts, and cans of soup, Lieutenant.
Adults, Pete. Actually, 378,000. As many as live in El Paso. Adults whose whole lives, tastes, and dollars are tuned to Louisville.
Well, now, Lieutenant, that's a mighty big bunch. Shouldn't be too hard to find, though. How can I recognize them?
Why, they're your neighbors, Moss.
My neighbors?
Your neighbors.
Holy mulch! Somebody stole my neighbors?
Well, almost, Pete. Most of the time, they're just forgotten, overlooked. And we think they disappear. Like magic. Right at the edge of the metro.
Wow. They leave any clues, leave anything behind for me to check them out?
Nope, take it all with them.
Their money, too?
Pete, now don't let this get around, but those missing folks got $1.75 billion a year to spend.
Woo-hoo! That's some kind of hidden treasure, Lieutenant. 400,000 bodies, $1.75 billion. Where do I find them?
Well, actually, the only thing we know, they're just over the metro line, but inside the area of dominant influence, the ADI.
You mean to tell me just by stepping across the line, they just disappear?
Like magic. Now, Inspector Moss, what are you going to do first?
Pray.
Oh, yes, friends, how do we reach them? Well, last Sunday, right here in this congregation, there was 400,000 people. And today, there's just one. What is your name, sir?
I'm Inspector Pete Moss. I'm not exactly in the congregation.
Well, how you doing, Pete?
Let me do some figuring here. Let me see now. I got my old figures in front of me here. 400,000 people missing, right? Now, Metro, it says here, Metro, 600,000 people. What's this ADI? That'd be 400,000, 600, and 400,000, make up 1 million. Now, 1 million is what it is. Huh. Wait a minute here. Now, if you draw a line right here between this metro and the other side of the street, you'll get this 400,000. That's where they are. They simply on the other side of the line. Now, you mean you can't count these people because they're on the other side of this little line? Though that's not a case for me. That's discrimination. Them people ain't missing. They just done away with on paper.
Why, Pete, the whole rest of the people just disappear. You know, I think our own people do that once in a while. Check operations and let me know.
You, sir, excuse me, sir, what are you writing down over there?
Well, I work here, and I'm writing this, I'm making this little map out. It's beautiful. Don't you like the little numbers, the little curlicues and things?
Oh, they're beautiful. They really are pretty. I like your little red line there. What's that little red line going down there?
Well, that discriminates between Metro and the area here. Now, see the guy who lives on this side of the line? The poor being cannot be counted. He's not in Metro.
Well, that sounds like to me. Why you do that?
Well, it just looks pretty. The little red line going across that little street there. The guy who lives on this street. He's nothing. He's just a figment of our imagination.
Well, wait a minute. I was over there and I seen a lot of people. They're just figments?
Yes, they're just figments. The whole thing on the other side of the line are just figments of your imagination. These people can't hear, they can't walk, talk, nothing. They're not even there.
Now, come on, they're there, aren't they?
Well, they're there figuratively. Physically, I'll say. And figuratively, they're not there.
Whose figures?
Do you like mine?
Still haven't found them, Lieutenant. Just a lot of figments.
I've got the answer, Moss. The one sure way to reach all those thousands of people and hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh, goody, Lieutenant.
We'll use the tremendous coverage newspaper, the Jerrier Colonel.
Oh, one of the great myths of our time, Lieutenant. Sure, yes.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Well, we know that into them 400,000 adults, the coverage paper delivers only 35,000 copies. Now, a drop in the bucket. Besides, the expense count can't afford it.
Can't afford it?
No, since 1970, the published open line rates for that thing have gone up about 40%.
Well, Pete, you're our last hope. What's the answer?
A cuddly giant.
A what?
A cuddly giant.
What is this, Inspector Moss, a fairy tale?
No. My buddy, the cuddly giant. Well, see, he gets word to 133,000 of our missing adults every week.
Wait a minute. 133,000. That's 35% of the whole missing city.
That's right, Lieutenant. But if there's 400,000 adults and $1.75 billion out there, let's rely on the one friend we can count on.
You mean?
Yeah, can't you tell?
I can feel the spirit.
Can you feel the spirit?
The answer is clear. We gotta listen and count on
Kentuckiana's Cuddly Giant, Cuddly Giant, Cuddly Giant.
WHAS, a giant time.
Sometimes the hourly radio newscast might contain certain stories that command your listener's attention after the newscast is over. And if one listener calls, at least 100 others are probably equally interested. But since the response level is unknowable, you should probably just slide into the subject with the first caller so you can play it off as a one-shot if nobody else calls. There's nothing worse than announcing this is going to be a special show and then nobody else calls and you're left having to beg for calls on the air. The following show, Rape in the Courts, was a spur-of-the-moment special. So listen to the way I play into it, so if nobody else calls, I can let it die as a one-shot without being committed to more.
Sunday afternoon, Jim Fergusson'S show, and Irene, you were mentioning something in Jerry Lightsl's newscast.
Yes, I started to say that the police officer on that rape case in Florida said that wasn't justice. It was crime. Well, I believe that the law should be updated. It's about time the victim got some protection from the laws instead of the rapist.
But, of course, laws in America are normally decided, justice is decided in a court and not on the street.
That's true, but the way the law is standing out today, the criminal has more protection than most of the victims.
Yeah, I think a lot of law enforcement people have talked about perhaps the point that we're bending over so far backwards to give the accused the benefit of the doubt that we're actually, not enforcing the laws that we have now.
I don't think it just goes for rapist. It goes for any kind of a criminal. The laws are so in protection of the criminal that he can really do anything he wants to do, and he knows that in 6 months or a year he's going to be back on the streets to do it again.
Yeah.
This is even true for murderers.
Well, you used to see in the old Western movies, right? At the trial, the judge with a spittoon there did his number, and he said, "I find you guilty." That was it. You didn't see a cowboy saying, "Your Honor, I appeal this case on the..." you know, that was the decision that was rendered and was carried out. There was no appeal, you know. Now, in part of the problem with our court system that it is so backlogged is that almost every decision that is made is appealed, and you know, maybe we have 5 or 6 court sessions from that one case instead of what used to be the one, you know, decision that the judge initially made. So that's a problem as far as, you know, the court system and the backlog, and why that maybe we have a case lingering on in courts for, you know, 5 years maybe.
That's true. But getting back to this case down in Florida, it goes true for any place. If a man is accused of rape, the victim is the one whose past is exposed in court, and not the criminal. And he comes out smelling like a rose, and the victim looks like the criminal. And I think that these laws should be changed.
Right. Now, again, though, it depends on what side you're on, you know. Now, if your husband, say, were accused of rape, and, you know, you would know that that would not be true, then I think you would probably appreciate the, you know, the way the system works, in that the character of the accused in a case like that is, you know, is also extremely important. Now, I know that a lot of times that perhaps the accused is taken advantage of in court, you know, because of that. Like you said, you know, her past is dug up, and you know, so it's a problem. But I think that probably we would want to be as fair as possible, you know, and as right, trying to assemble the facts as possible.
There's another point of the law that doesn't seem hardly fair to justice. It states that, I believe in some states, a rape has to be witnessed. Well, a man just isn't going to rape a woman if there's a possibility that somebody's going to see him.
Right, I wasn't familiar with that. What state has that, do you know?
Oh, gee, I don't know. I have heard of it in some states, but I don't really know which ones they are. I know I have heard that in Kentucky, it's on the books that if a woman gets into a car with a man and rape is an outcome of it, that she can't accuse him of rape.
You mean if she voluntarily enters the car?
If she voluntarily enters the car for a ride or something of that sort, and he ends up raping her, she cannot prosecute him for it.
That's, again, something I'm unfamiliar with. Perhaps some of our listeners may have, you know, additional information on that. I don't know. You know, I've never heard of that. I would think that rape is rape, you know, whatever. But I think that, well, we have in Louisville recently instituted, let's see, I don't want to go overboard on this, but I know there has been some modifications in the rape procedures, investigative procedures from the police department.
I think they're making real progress in a lot of the major cities through the country. I've read articles that they are helping women through this crisis more than they ever did before, and realizing what an effect it can have on women, which I think is good. I think it's time that somebody starts standing up for the victim instead of the one that perpetrates the crime against the victim. We've got a long way to go yet, though, in this country before we wipe it out. It's on the increase. And any news stories I've heard that the incident of rape is up a lot more than in past years.
One would think with the, you know, as other people have said, our modern lifestyle, you know, being more permissive than ever before, that would be on the decrease. Sort of paradox. Well, Irene, thank you for calling. We'll float it out, see what kind of response we get.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We have a copy now of that story that came out of, what we said Miami, I believe, earlier. It was really Daytona Beach. And I'll read that for you, and then we have another release from Raleigh. And police in Daytona Beach say 6 women described as vigilantes armed themselves with knives and slashed an accused rapist before he could be arrested. The woman's victim, 20-year-old John Dotson, is reportedly in satisfactory condition at a local hospital after being placed under police guard. Authorities say none of the 6 women have been arrested and refuse to give any information about their investigation of the incident. Police say Dotson was working in his front yard Friday afternoon when the 6 women attacked him. Earlier, a Daytona Beach woman had filed a complaint against Dotson for rape. He was later charged with sexual battery. And another rape case at the moment in news from Raleigh, North Carolina. The task of selecting the final 4 jurors to hear the Joan Little murder case begins tomorrow. Testimony probably to start by midweek. Miss Little, a 21-year-old black, is on trial in Raleigh, North Carolina for the slaying of a white jailer. Miss Little claims that the jailer, Clarence Allgood, tried to rape her, and she acted in self-defense. So there we have it. And we were talking with Irene just a little earlier this afternoon on the comment line about the ability of rape trials not to seem to be swift and sure as the arm of justice is supposed to be. Sharon, you had a comment on a rape subject?
Yes, sir, I did. A while ago, I heard you mention, what if it was your husband that had been charged? What if it was your wife, the one that had been raped? And say you and she had had sex relations before you were married, and maybe there had been someone else. Well, if they brought that up in court, they think, well, she slept with him and she slept with this other guy. Why should we convict him of rape when he, forcibly forced her into the sex act?
Well, I think the criteria for evaluation of whether rape had been committed is force, regardless of, if they'd known each other or not. I don't think that would be the criteria. I think the force would be, the point.
But she would really have no way of proving it, just her word.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think perhaps that's what happens in many rape cases. It becomes one person's word against the other, plus perhaps, whatever medical evidence, whatever that's about. I'm not sure in my mind what they do there. Yeah. But in a normal rape case, what else would there be? Excluding perhaps off-chance witnesses.
Yeah, but so many times they wouldn't come forward and testify.
Well, that's true. That's true. It seems to me, though, that rape would come under, and we have all the civil rights thing, where we're talking about excluding somebody, like the Klan meeting that was in Louisville, and they were talking about perhaps violation of civil rights. They're excluding people from coming to that meeting. It looks like rape would be even a more graphic illustration of a violation of someone's, rights. You have the right to or the right not to. And the consequences of rape would be far more devastating emotionally than being excluded perhaps from, attending a meeting or whatever. But there's it's a highly emotional thing, a volatile crime that who knows? Do you think it's being dealt with fairly or accurately?
No, I don't, but I wouldn't know what to tell them how to do it. Because it's a very personal, each person needs to be dealt with individually, not just you do this and you do that, just set rules. It's not possible.
Well, there's a dilemma that the female has to decide at that point as to whether, to resist or what, Yeah. And that's got to be a heavy decision, you know.
Well, so many times when they even take them to court, they're off, and then they go rape somebody else, and then they get off for that, too. That's what makes me so mad.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps it would be a matter of absolute evidence, you know. I don't know if lie detector, the CIA is big on lie detector tests. I don't know if...
Well, that's not foolproof, though.
No. No.
And he's sure not going to rape you where everybody in the world can see it, that's for sure, so... I don't know. Well, that's really all I'm...
Right. Well, it's an interesting point, and I think, you know, regardless of whether you are the accused rapist or the rapee, justice has got to be done.
No, something does.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Sharon.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Did you have a comment on the rape subject?
Sure.
Okay. May I have your first name? Your first name, please, sir.
Hello.
Yes, your first name, please.
John.
John. Okay, John. Go ahead.
There's only one way to stop this, and that is capital punishment.
You think to reinstitute capital punishment as a crime for rape?
That's the only way. I wrote the Supreme Court last week. I wrote the President the week before, and I wrote the Governor this last week.
Mm-hmm.
This thing of letting these guys go and rape a little girl and get by with it and don't punish them. In fact, they ought to make the punishment meet all these crimes. The only way to stop crime is punish the guy. You know, they wouldn't have to kill but one or two of them, and with a little publicity in the paper, it would stop this thing. You see what happened now to Saudi Arabia? They just cut the guy's head off. They won't have any more assassinations out there. And until we put these laws back into effect, the crime's going to continue to increase.
Well, if we're talking about an individual that is mentally disturbed to commit murder or rape, then if he is, depending on what point he is mentally disturbed, the point of rationale about should I do this or will I be punished really doesn't come into play. If he is beyond, you know, rationality, he doesn't think like that.
If he's got sense enough to rape a little girl, he's got sense enough to be punished.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have a close friend was a nurse at the general hospital, and she has seen a little girl that had been raped, and she said if anybody ever saw anything like that, they wouldn't wonder about what kind of punishment to give them, because lots of times it affects their mind, you know.
Yeah.
That's the only solution I see for it, and I've written everybody I know to write to, and this Supreme Court is just delaying this decision up there. Those old men don't know what they're doing anyway.
John, could I ask you, I'm just curious, you mentioned work in that area, you know, writing the president, and could I ask you what your interest had been prior to that? Had there been something personal in your life?
Well, a very close friend was raped out on here in Belgravia Court.
Mm-hmm.
by a black youth about 17.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see it, you hear of it happening every day, and nothing done about it. If they got a little money, well, they get out of it. And there's only one way that if they punish them and do a little publicity, put a little publicity in the newspaper, you won't have to kill but one or two of them, and they'll stop it or at least slow it down anyway. It's the same way with bank robbery. We're having about 2 bank robberies a week here in Louisville. And what do they do about it? They got any money, they get out of it. Half of them they don't catch. I know how the banks can afford to carry it.
Very good, John. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Yes, by far the most severe after effect of rape would be the emotional standpoint of the female. And then not only in that time, but at that specific time comes the court case. So maybe perhaps she's not mentally able to go through that. Did you have a comment on our rape subject? Okay, may I have your first name, please?
Catherine.
Catherine, okay.
I think, just like the man just said, if they would have capital punishment for that, then they'd be more or less
reduced is not stopped, it's reduced. Now, talk about the mentally ill, if they're mentally ill. All right, they put them in a mental hospital and let them out. This man in
Let's not deal in specifics if we can.
Anyway, there was a certain person, and he was in 15 years, off and on. They let him out. He raped the little girl and killed her. So, they shouldn't let them out. If they are disturbed in their mind in that way, then they should never be let out of a mental hospital or jail or whatever. And I just think that there's no need for people to have to be scared to death to go on the street, because that's one of our rights given to us, is that we should be allowed to go on the street.
Right.
And you're afraid to go out nowadays. You're afraid to stay at home. They come in your home and do it.
Well, perhaps, you were talking about the mental situation with
Well, either one. I mean, if it's meanness or if it's mental. But if it's mental, they should be kept in and shouldn't be left out. If it's meanness, then they should string them up.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, besides Kathleen, string them up.
That's right.
Okay, I've got it noted.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you for calling.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Topic on the comment line, rape. Dennis, you had a thought?
Yes. I was just sitting here thinking about that. They're really trying to condemn these young ladies for taking revenge on this fellow down in Florida. But I'm wondering if this will kind of field notice to the authorities, the police authorities, that maybe it's just as severe when one fella does it to a girl versus 4 or 5 girls doing it to one fella. The men have been in the chauvinistic situation of police officers for a long time, and actually the girl really has to prove innocence in order to be exonerated from it. But with the shoe on the other foot, I'm wondering if they may act more in the girl's behalf in the future as they have in the past.
Right. Well, what we have, hopefully, is a radical, situation here. Hopefully, it does not become commonplace. And I think usually you can look at radical movements or radical happenings as perhaps the government being unresponsive to people's needs. Over a long period of time, frustrations build up, and then people decide that things are moving too slowly and that they're going to do it themselves. And then you have, things like that happening.
Well, like this is just one case in Florida, right? In Miami, I think you said?
I think that was Daytona Beach. I said Miami, but it was Daytona.
Okay. Well, not only did I used to live in Daytona, but the thing is, one case where the shoe's been on the other foot, and it's getting national wire and print. And yet how many girls are getting raped daily without any print at all?
That's true.
And it may open the eyes of the police enforcement to figure that maybe when these girls tell them, hey, I have been raped, maybe they'll take it more into a tone, because I'm sure that with women's lib, if things don't go more in her favor with rape, I can foresee a lot of girls banging together that maybe find out that the same fellow raped him and jumping this guy and really cleaning his clock like they did in Daytona Beach. I kind of think it may open their eyes. At least I hope so anyway. I don't know whether it will or not,
And the other aspect of it is how many rape cases are not reported simply because the female doesn't want to have to go through what she has to go through in order to prosecute the case or have the case prosecuted.
Yeah, with everything that's been in the paper and like on the television with the cases where the girl is really, to my way of thinking, shot down before she actually proves that she is innocent and the guy is almost totally free. I just don't, I think that, at least I'm hoping that this will kind of open their eyes up, because I think it's probably a worse experience for a girl than we men tend to believe at times, and now that 4 or 5 of them that it would take to jump one fella are getting revenge. I think, at least I hope it'll open up their eyes in the future. I don't know.
Right. Dennis, thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Barbara, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did. I was listening to these people who suggested capital punishment for the crime of rape. Well, I don't agree with that. Not so long ago, England was having capital punishment for pickpockets. They have a public hanging. Well, that was the favorite place for the pickpockets to gather, and they all picked the pockets of the people who watched the pickpockets get hanged. So that's not necessarily, capital punishment is not necessarily the final thing. I mean, well, like a month ago in Louisville Times, on the front cover of the scene, they had this model, and she was a very good-looking model, walking down the street, and they were taking pictures of her, and they had that on the cover of the newspaper. Well, the expressions of the men behind her weren't exactly of disinterest. I would say that the difference between the men who were interested in this woman and the men or women, kind of hard to rape a man, I guess, but the men who were looking at this woman and the men who rape women would be a matter of self-discipline. Because there's a lot of men who walk down the street and they think, oh, look at that good-looking girl across the street, and maybe in their mind they're imagining committing the act of rape to this, well, not necessarily rape, but the sex act in their mind, and the only reason why they don't do it to that woman or to another woman they see walking down the street is perhaps self-discipline. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything,
right,
but that's just logic, you know.
Right. Well, the only thing that makes you what you are is what you think.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's the only difference I would think between a rapist and a non-rapist is, you know, what they think about it,
yeah,
how they feel about it. So, you know, you're not talking about a guy that's got a, a big foot, you know, a little toe or anything like that. It's, you know, it's all in your mind how you think about it. So that's the only differentiation between a rapist and a non-rapist. I don't know. I would think that there's another thing, too, that perhaps if capital punishment were put back as the punishment for rape, that perhaps the rapist might decide to leave, you know, no witnesses, you know.
And you're going to murder.
Right. And so, I don't know. I really don't. How do you think rape cases are being handled? Do you think they're being handled adequately in Louisville? Do you know?
I don't know. I never had any experience, you know, with friends or anything like that. So I couldn't pass judgment on that.
Mm-hmm. If you were raped, would you report it?
No, I don't. I think I would be too embarrassed to report it. Too embarrassed to sit up in the witness stand and sit there and say everything.
Mm-hmm.
I would just be too humiliated and embarrassed to do it.
Very good. So then we have something, in order to prosecute someone, we have to suffer a great deal in just getting the facts out. And maybe we've created something that's an impossible situation because the plaintiff does not want to prosecute because of the mental anguish that she would have to endure in doing so.
Yeah.
That's not right. That's not right. Barbara, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Our comment line, subject matter, rape. Linda, did you have a comment?
Yes, I'd like to comment on the young lady who spoke before. She said she didn't think she would report it if she were to be raped.
Right.
And I think this is very important in stopping these kind of things happening, is to report them right away.
Right.
And be aware that these things do happen and try to protect yourself from them happening.
Sometimes perhaps people don't know what their limits are, and you know that this could be emotionally untenable or unable to handle it emotionally and know it.
That's true. And sometimes I think knowing that the man or young man who's done this thing to you has been prosecuted, I think helps sometimes in the mental anguish they go through just knowing that they're paying for the crime they've done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is very important to report any rape that's been done and report it right away. The sooner it's reported, the better chance there is that the person will be prosecuted for what he's done.
Right. You would then?
I certainly would.
Mm-hmm. And you would have no qualms about going into a jury situation?
No, I don't think so. I think that I would be so mad. Maybe, I don't know how actually I would feel if this would happen, but right now I think that I would be so mad I'd want to see this man, prosecuted for what he had done to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if this were done more often, that if more of them were reported, that maybe it would help stop some of them.
Very good, Linda. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Comment line subject, rape. Shirley, did you have thoughts?
Yes. First of all, I wanted to say I don't believe in capital punishment or anything. But I think if someone is convicted of rape, I think they should be rehabilitated, or at least they should, because I think it's a sickness no matter who does it.
Right.
One lady called it a meanness. Well, to me, I think they're sick in order to be mean, and I think that society is made them that way. And I think I feel a little bit responsible because I am part of this society, so I think that they should be rehabilitated.
Of course, we get into the whole thing. We talk about rehabilitation, whether it's a criminal act or a medical problem, and in rehabilitation, from statistics that I've seen, our rehabilitative efforts in prison systems have not really worked.
Yeah, so
it's not really a case of rehabilitation when a person is in prison. It's just incarceration.
Then we have to work on our prisons then.
Right.
So that's about all I wanted to say. I just felt like I should say that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Shirley. Bye-bye. Your thoughts on our subject, rape, Rose?
Well, first of all, I'd like to make a comment from two angles.
Okay.
I am a woman, very much a woman. I am not an old fuddy-duddy. I like the latest styles in clothes, but I go into the supermarkets in the suburbs, and the other day I was down in the city of Louisville, and I could not believe how some women go on the streets dressed. Of course, they say that no woman, no matter what she wears, should be subject to rape. But I do feel that a lot of people don't leave a lot hidden.
Right. Do you think some women, the way they dress, are contributory to rape?
I certainly do. Now, I feel that there should be punishment for rape. I don't feel that there's a punishment good enough to rape a child. And I also feel that, for instance, if this unfortunate thing were to happen to me, I would have to go out and get my own lawyer at my expense. So many we read about today, whether it be rape or whatever, is provided a free lawyer, mind you, the best in the city. And I feel that anyone who goes out thinking this way thinks, oh, well, if I get caught, what am I going to lose?
You mean the rapist?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I do not feel, I don't care what they do, that they should be given a free lawyer. For instance, when my husband died a few years ago, I paid an attorney several $1,000s to settle this for me. I had this to do. And within a month, 2 policemen were brutally slain in Louisville. And eventually the court appointed this lawyer that I had paid several $1,000s to settle my husband's estate. They gave the services of this very same man to one of those who supposedly did this. And I don't think this is fair. I think they should have to pay their own way.
So you would be against court-appointed attorneys for defense?
Definitely.
What about the prosecutor who was serving, in the prosecution case as a public official?
Of course, he hears both sides, right?
But he is primarily concerned with prosecution.
Right. I just feel that if I have to pay a lawyer to support me because I have been raped or my child has, that they should have to do the same thing. I don't care where they live. I don't care what their income is, whatever.
Yeah. Normally, though, in a legal proceeding, it would be the prosecutor who would handle your case as opposed to you seeking a private attorney. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, well, this I don't know, but I know in so many...
It's not really a civil case. It's a police case, a legal proceeding.
Right.
As opposed to a civil case.
Right. Well, I still feel that women could watch their dress. Really?
Okay, yeah, but the whole society is on being beautiful, right? Right. Today, the whole thing in society is that men and women should be beautiful people.
That's right. Be natural, but you don't have to be nude to be beautiful. You know? You can dress nice, be conservative. You know?
Yeah.
In your dress. Now, I don't mean go around with ruffles down to the ground. I don't do this. You know?
Yeah.
And I like to wear the latest styles and this, that, and the other. But I do really feel, even at the ballpark and the supermarkets, I see women, I think, I can't believe this. It's worse this year than it was last. It's getting worse all the time.
What?
I think when you walk the streets with very little on, you're saying, look at me, you know?
But that's what a good deal of society was saying with our dress, in general, not just women, but everything, What would you consider to be over-enticement in dress?
Okay. I have seen just in the last month women in supermarkets in line with halters on with nothing underneath. There was nothing you couldn't see. And I think this is wrong. I think this is too extreme. You see them downtown. I saw one downtown day before yesterday. Just a strip across the top. Nothing underneath. That's it.
But isn't that a common mode of attire?
Well, it's getting more so. And there's also getting more rape.
And you think
I'm saying this is what's causing it. But I'm saying that I want to dress the latest, and my weakness is clothes.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say to everybody that's standing on the corner looking for a stray woman,
Right.
Well, there's an obvious one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Jim Ferguson Show for a Sunday afternoon. Our comment line subject, rape. Rose, your thoughts?
Okay, I have been listening to some of those ladies, and I was involved in an attempted rape. Someone broke into my apartment while I was in it, and I'm a quite strong person, and I fought my way through, and the man was trying to choke me. I was screaming, and he told me that he would kill me unless I quit, and he was trying to put a pillow over my face, and it slipped, and I got his hand in my face and bit the daylights out of it. In fact, it was bleeding when he was leaving, and it did not come to the rape, and he was I made him leave the apartment. But I know one thing. I don't really believe in capital punishment, but if this should happen again, there will be capital punishment in my apartment. I really mean it. Right now, I am prepared for the case. I had identified the person to the police. I had seen the man about a month later in a car. It took the police 3 days before they made an arrest. Then, the man was being let out. He was arrested. They kept him overnight, and he was being let out on bail. Okay, this boy is 19 years old. I am 35. I am divorced. And I really was so very angry about it all, and I thought I'm going to follow through with the court and everything. But as it ended up, they were trying to get him for breaking and entering. Nothing was stolen. They couldn't really get him on rape.
Not even attempted rape?
Well, they could get him on attempted rape, which would probably be a suspended sentence, is what it ended up to be. And I would have made a complete scandal. I am a teller in a bank, and I could not really afford a scandal. Being divorced, people would say,
Right.
In fact, he had to bite his hand to get him into the apartment, yes or no. Did you bite his hand? I have watched Kojak and Barry Mason really know what's going on.
But there's a certain protocol that a young lady has to go through when she's raped.
Yeah, that's right.
She can't do nothing, because then, it's not for sure that it was rape. So she has to resist to a certain point, or continue to resist.
Right.
It's just, It's the code of the road.
Yeah, but you know, like in my case, okay, I fought the guy off, but I thought, my idea was, he slapped me around. I had a swollen jaw and a busted lip and so forth, but he was bleeding. I guess I must have bit so hard. He told me, in fact, if I was not turning loose, he would kill me, but I knew in a way he couldn't kill me with one hand. And, I wouldn't turn loose of that hand until he was at the door. It was, right now, when I think about it, it's quite humorous. But, you know, the thing is, though, I called the police immediately just for one reason. This man knew that I have called the police.
Right.
For him to come back on it, you know, that I was not chicken enough for that. You know,
right.
Otherwise I would have been afraid that he might show up again. And I live on a downstairs base. My bedroom door goes all the way out to the backyard. And I had seen this man come in, but for some reason I did not turn my back toward him. In fact, I got out of my bed and turned on the big light and asked him what he wanted. And that, of course, he told me. I thought, well, stupid me, why should I ask? You know?
Rose, I tell you, you're one in a million. I think you handle it beautifully. Some women, you know, may not be in that much control at that particular point.
Yeah, but you'd be amazed what strength you will have during that time. Afterwards I broke down and cried. And but right now, I have a bottle of maize right on my nightstand, and I have more locks in my building. If I want to get some fresh air, I have to get a key to unlock my window. Really, I am prepared now for the case. I really am.
It's like when you realize when you finally get prepared, it'll never happen, right?
Well, I never thought it would happen to me in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people where, I live in a protected town. Of course, our whole police department is more like Mayberry RFD.
Come on, Rose, come on.
I'm not kidding you. Really, when I seen this man, I thought the police should take immediate action.
Yeah.
I thought I might have to make the arrest myself. I'm not kidding. In fact, I have only one fear. This man's suspended sentence is just about up. And I think I have faced him since that in our town here. And, the thing was, I did not want to go to court. I chickened out on it, was just settled out of court because I knew nothing would really happen. All I would do is ruin my reputation in front of everybody.
Right.
And I could not afford the scandal. But the thing is, I have the revenge in mind because it does something mentally to you. This happened approximately a year ago. And I know it just does something mentally to you. It really does, even so it did not come to the point. It's just a scare you would have. Like, for instance, I couldn't scream. I made a sound like a retarded person would make. It was not a scream at first. Mm-hmm. Just the fear of it. And I thought, well, I can't identify him. I see him in the bright light. I thought he might go ahead and try to do something to me or my son. In fact, my son was sleeping in the room next door and did not, it takes him a while to get up. And I thought, well, on breaking and entering, they couldn't have just gotten him on that because this man was for 5 minutes at my apartment, right?
Right.
There has to be some kind of explanation. And I think the police is sort of protecting the man who is doing something like that. Now, this man has tried this, but what would happen to him? He can try it over and over again.
Right. Well, we talked about that perhaps in our desire to protect the innocent, that sometimes we go so far in the opposite extreme that we really don't prosecute the guilty. Rose, thank you very much for calling.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
In 1976, I had the revelation that sometimes the journey getting there can be as interesting as arriving at the destination. It's true of life, and I think also in terms of radio specials. The Castro Call is an excellent example of this, and also how small a world this really is. From one of the very patient long-distance operators who just happened to live in Louisville one time and talks about our old stomping ground part of town, to a radio producer in Boston who listens to WHAS sports broadcaster Van Vance, even to the point of knowing Van did reading books for the blind. Well, you just have to be there. Oh, but then you are, and you're just in time for the Castro Call.
Of late, there seems to be a thawing of the Cold War type attitude between Prime Minister Fidel Castro's Cuba and the United States. South Dakota's Senator George McGovern visited with Fidel Castro personally, and in that meeting, Fidel Castro indicated his country would be interested in establishing diplomatic recognition and putting an end to the Cuban-American trade embargo. This could be a major effort by the Castro regime to ease tensions in that part of the world. But how do you find out for sure? Speak to the man, Fidel Castro, direct, of course. There's just too much second-hand information floating around these days. But how do you do that? Simple. Call him, person to person.
Operator, may I help you?
Yes, operator. This is Jim Ferguson, WHS Radio.
Yes.
Do we have telephone service with Cuba?
I don't know that it would be direct dial. I'm sure it would probably have to go through overseas. I can check with my routing operator.
Okay. If I wanted to make a person-to-person phone call, would I go through you?
Well, you'd have to dial the operator, and then we'd have to connect you. I'm pretty sure it is overseas to Cuba, and then we'd have to connect you with the overseas operator there.
Okay. Well, I have dialed the operator. Now, where do we go from here?
Okay, just a moment. I have to get my routing for Cuba. Hold on, please.
Okay.
Cuban operator?
Yes. Could you tell me if we have service with Havana?
Yes, we have calls. Yes, we do place calls to Havana.
Yes, I would like to make a person-to-person phone call to Fidel Castro.
The telephone number?
We would have to probably go through local information Havana.
You won't get a call then, sir, because they don't give out his number. They don't place calls to him.
I see.
If you have the number, you will not get a call through.
Is there a way that we could perhaps get a call placed to someone in the office there?
Not unless you have a number.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't give out numbers and they don't connect us with that particular part unless there is a number.
I see. Do you think perhaps through the American, we do not have the American consulate in...
No, we don't.
Do we have a Swiss consulate there?
I guess they do, sir. I don't know. You would have to check with the government to find out about that because I really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That information I don't know.
Uh-huh. But there would be no way of placing a person-to-person phone call.
Not unless you have a number, too. You can place person-to-person calls, but to Fidel Castro, you do have to have a number.
I see. And the local information Havana would not even have a number for that building.
Unless you have a number. They have not so far.
So what we'll need to do is get a number for that building.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Well, what have we learned? Only what any good bachelor already knows. You can't do business if you don't have the number. But where do you get Fidel Castro's personal phone number? From Senator McGovern, of course. He just came back from there. And he's always trying to help folks with their problems.
Captain? Senator George McGovern, please, long distance calling.
Thank you.
Senator McGovern's office.
Senator George McGovern, please, for long distance.
I'm sorry, operator. The senator's out of the office right now. Could his administrative assistant help your party?
Can you speak with his administrative assistant?
Yes.
Just a moment. Thank you.
George Cunningham.
Sir, are you Senator McGovern's administrative assistant?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Jim Fergusson, WHAS, Louisville, Kentucky. Listen, the senator recently returned from Havana, speaking with Fidel Castro. I was wondering if I might ask you...
Let me switch you to our press section. Hold on.
Okay.
Alan's desk.
Yes.
Alan Barrett's desk. May I help you?
Yes, this is Jim Ferguson, WHS Radio. And what I was trying to do is to speak with Senator George McGovern.
The senator has a very full schedule this morning, and he's leaving for Sioux Falls this afternoon.
Is there any way that we might be able to speak for just a couple of minutes?
I really don't think it would be possible, but why don't I take your number and get back to you, okay?
Okay, could you retransfer the call to Senator McGovern's administrative assistant?
He's on another line. Just a second. Is that okay? Okay, just a second.
George Cunningham.
Yes, sir. This is Jim Ferguson again. What I was really looking for, we're trying to do a feature, more or less generally what the attitude of Castro is now about this, perhaps really intent on establishing better relations, getting rid of the trade embargo, etc. And it would really be very good if there were any way that we could perhaps get the senator.
All right, hold on a minute, please.
Okay.
Sir, I'm sorry. We have a bit of confusion here. I'll transfer you back.
All right.
Hello.
Yes, whom do I have now?
Alan Barron?
Yes, and you're with Senator McGovern's press corps?
Yes.
Yes. This is Jim Ferguson, WHAS Radio. Is there any way that we might be able to speak with the senator?
Well, I'm afraid not. He's leaving town today, and it's just impossible even to get a minute. We probably had about 60 requests this week, and it's just been impossible to meet him. If you're doing a program on it, we could have you speak, get quotations from him, or speak to his foreign policy assistant, who went with him and was in all the meetings with Castro.
How could we do that?
Okay, well, do you want to talk to him right now?
Yes.
Hold on a second.
What is his name?
John Holum, H-O-L-U-M.
John Holum?
Yes, H-O-L-U-M. I'll transfer you. Hold on.
Sir?
Yes.
Mr. Holum is in conference at this time. Can I take your name and your number and have him return your call?
Yes, Jim Ferguson, WHAS Radio.
WHAS?
Yes, Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, I used to live there.
Did you?
Yeah, last year. That was my last year adventure.
What part?
I lived over... Oh, gosh, it's been so long. I worked downtown for a doctor, a surgeon.
Yeah.
And I lived in apartments. I live by Veterans Hospital.
Oh, out on Zorn Avenue?
Oh, thank you. That's where I live.
Yeah. Beautiful. It's a small world.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
What's your name?
Lemaster.
I see.
Becky Lemaster.
Becky Lemaster.
Uh-huh.
How did you ever get with Senator McGovern?
Well, my parents live in South Dakota.
Ah.
So, but I've never lived there.
Uh-huh.
It's a small world.
Enjoy your work?
Oh, yeah, I really like it.
Uh-huh. Beautiful. Listen, Becky.
Well, I wish I was still there. It's awfully pretty.
Yeah. You're the secretary in the McGovern office?
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Are you from Louisville?
No, I'm from Indianapolis.
I see. Okay.
It's all confusing, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, Becky.
Listen, I'm sorry he's tied up, but we'll get back with you just as soon as we can.
Very good.
Okay.
Let me give you a number.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
582. 7554.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
It's all so confusing, isn't it? But if it's such a small world, why is it such a great distance from Louisville to Havana? The thawing of Cuban-American relations, a major news development being thwarted by telephone logistics. Believing that the listener's right to know is paramount, we pressed on, leaving no stone unturned. There once was an unconfirmed, unfounded rumor that a fellow radio personality, Larry Glick at WBZ Boston, once placed a similar call to Fidel Castro, being successful all the way up to the outer office. We checked it out.
Did you say it was 617-254-5670?
Yes.
I just want... Hello, long distance calling Mr. Larry Glick.
I'll have to give you programming, dear.
Thank you.
Still ringing there for you.
All right.
Okay.
It's not lunchtime.
Not yet.
Maybe it's mid-morning coffee break time. finally found a place that has a worse telephone system than we do. BZ in Boston. It's true.
WBZ.
This was long distance. We had called a while ago for Mr. Larry Glick, and we were unsuccessful in locating anyone at all. Can you connect me with anybody that may know where we could reach him?
Hold on, please. Programming.
This is long distance, and we're trying to get in touch with Mr. Larry Glick.
Well, Larry is not in right now, ma'am.
Do you have a number where we can reach him?
No, I'm sorry. I can't give you that number.
He can't give us the number. Could anyone else help you, or would you want me to ask when he will be there or anything like that?
Whom do we have on the line now?
Who is this?
My name is Bob Oakes. I'm the program manager.
The program manager.
Yes.
Would you like to speak with him? All right, he'll speak with you.
Hello? Yeah, this is Jim Ferguson, WHAS Louisville.
Yeah, Jim.
Listen, I once heard a wild story. I mean, it's completely unfounded, and I'm sure untrue, that Larry Glick managed to make a long-distance phone call down to Havana to a young secretary down there. Can you substantiate that unconfirmed rumor?
Not for sure. It wouldn't surprise me. There's a lot of crazy things. Let me check and see if Larry's producer is in.
All right.
There's a possibility of that, and he may know for sure.
Okay.
Hold on. Hello. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, is this Larry Glick's producer?
Well, sort of.
Sort of? The sorted Larry Glick producer. What is your name, sir?
This is Ken Meyer at WBZ.
Ken?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Jim Ferguson, WHAS Louisville.
Oh.
How you doing?
Good. Hold on one second. Hold on just 1 second.
All right.
Hi there. What can I do for you?
Yeah. I've heard once upon a time from an unfounded source that Larry Glick once placed a phone call to Havana, Cuba, and got as far as the secretary in the outer office to the man in charge. Can you confirm that?
I think that he did, but it wasn't. It was before I got here.
I see.
In fact, I've heard him talk about it on the air. But I don't remember the circumstances or what was involved in the call.
Right. Well, what I'm thinking is that where he failed, he just lacked sex appeal. Yeah. And I think if he had himself together, he could have gotten right on past her, right into the what is it, an Oval Office or Square Office down there?
I don't know. I never.
Nobody's been there.
I was just going to say I haven't been there to look. Not lately, anyway.
I want if it would be possible. I'd like to talk to Larry. We're doing a little feature thing about the complications one incurs in placing a long-distance person-to-person telephone call to Fidel Castro. And so far, it's really been interesting. We've been through McGovern. I never knew McGovern has got more offices than the president. He does. But I thought it might be interesting to talk to Larry about how much he went through doing his piece.
So you're doing a feature on people having trouble making calls to Castro?
Right.
Okay, how long are you there?
Well, that depends on management.
Well, now, I can call Larry and have him get in touch with you. But I can't give out Larry's.
Right, I got you.
Number.
Okay.
And plus the fact Larry is in bed right now.
Oh?
Okay.
All right, let me give you a number.
Okay.
582.
What's your area code?
That's an interesting question.
I know it. That's why I asked. I always like to ask interesting questions.
It's faded on the telephone, but it looks something like 502.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Either that or that's the extension I'm on. No, 502.
Let's see. 502. Right.
Right. 582.
582.
7554. That'll get you the operator.
Swell.
No, that's it.
What is your name again?
Jim.
Jim Ferguson.
Right.
Jim. Okay. It's 20 after 10 now. Now, Glick, I don't think gets up till quarter to 12 o'clock, so I'll call him.
All right.
Try and get him to call you collect.
All right.
Okay?
All right. And tell him it'll help his career.
Hey, there's a guy out there. I can't think of his name, but I think he works for your station. He broadcasts sports.
Van Vance.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And he reads talking books.
Yes.
For the American Printing House.
That's true.
And if you see him, you tell him from me, I think he's great.
All right.
On both counts.
All right, I'll do that.
Because I've read some of the stuff that he's done. I think one of the books he did was The Day Kennedy Was Shot.
Yeah.
And it was excellent.
Yeah.
It was excellently done.
Well,
I didn't know he did sports.
Yes,
but
yes.
I found it on the dial one night, and I said...
That's the same voice.
Well, I heard this voice, and I said, Jesus, I know that voice. Why do I know that voice?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, and I said, wow! Because that makes you feel good. Like last night I was watching the the Emmy Awards, and I found out that John Cannon is the chairman of the board of the Television Academy. And he read talking books. But, it's one of those things.
Right.
But is Van still doing that?
Yeah. He's, I haven't seen him in a couple of months now.
Mm-hmm.
And season has been over.
Yeah, I'm well aware.
But he's still traveling. Yeah. Nobody's figured that out yet. But anyway, listen, Ken, I appreciate it.
Oh, listen, I'll do anything. Anybody that knows Van Vance can't be all bad.
There you go. That's a shot in the arm.
Yeah, I knew that would help.
And if we can get Larry, tell him to be at his best now.
I will.
Because his career's at stake.
Well, it'll help your career, too.
Nothing can help mine. Thank you, Ken.
All right, I'll work on it.
Bye.
Right, bye-bye.
Meanwhile, a short time later, through our magic telephone system...
Is this the real Larry Glick?
Let me check. Yes, it is, Jim Ferguson.
It's every bit Larry Glick.
Yes.
Listen, I want to talk to you for a minute.
Okay.
I know you're unaccustomed to speaking on the radio, so I want you to relax. This is your big moment, okay?
Okay, Jim.
I once heard you mention on the air that you managed to make a phone call down to Havana.
That's true. I called, you mean, for Fidel?
Right.
Yeah, I called several times. I never got to him, though.
But you managed to make it to the secretary in front of the main office there.
Once, right. Once I got an operator, and I chatted with her.
Yeah?
The long-distance operator in Havana.
Use the charisma.
And while I was waiting, she seemed very pleasant.
Yeah.
And I told her I'd never been to Havana, and I was wondering if she could just tell me while we're waiting what it was like, before Fidel and after.
Yeah.
So she said, well, it was more fun before Fidel. I said, why? She said, oh, well, they had more hotels and more tourists and more entertainment. And I said, now? She says, oh, there is nothing. And then after that, I heard a click. That's a fact. That was it, click.
The line went dead.
The line went dead. I don't know what happened to her. But I said, hello? Hello, ¿habla usted español?
I understand she's...
But I couldn't get anything. The line was just Deadsville.
I understand she's working in a sugarcane field now.
Right.
Well, what I was looking for, I thought you had a number.
Oh, no. No, I just called person for Fidel Castro.
Yeah, I tried that already.
What do you do at that station?
Production director.
Oh, yeah.
But we're putting together a piece. And I went through McGovern, Oh. I figured he just came back, right?
Oh, you're really serious, eh, Jim?
Sure. I'm dedicated.
Attaboy.
I mean, I grab a hold and don't let loose until I die.
Attaboy, Jim.
And the phone bill's going to do that.
No, I never got anybody. Mine was just a whim,
Yeah.
Pick it up, so they called Fidel. I said, okay.
Well, what do you think now? I've spent, must be at least an hour on trying to put this thing together. And
I didn't get through to him.
No, can't do it.
No.
And I'm just wondering, the whole, world diplomatic relations rests on telephone logistics.
Oh, no, Jim, just take it easy. I'll try to line them up for you, though.
Maybe that's why we have such strained relations with Cuba. It's a telephone company.
That's right. That's part of it.
I mean, I think. What do you think if Castro published his number, right? You know, direct access, person to person, and if anybody had a problem, you know, felt uneasy, tension, neurotic, whatever, you know, they could dial the number and speak to him, and he could calm him down.
You have a swell idea, Jim. You're going to end up in Kentucky though if you keep talking.
But
hey, Jim,
yeah.
This is my phone bill. I want to see you later.
Oh, hey, I thought it was on mine.
No.
You were supposed to call me collect.
Oh, my wife didn't tell me. I'm calling you from my office here.
Catch you later, Larry.
So long, Jim.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
For the past some time now, you've been listening to an attempt to place a person-to-person phone call to Fidel Castro to verify person-to-person, as it were, the recent thawing of the Cold War-type atmosphere that has existed between Cuba and the United States. We have not been, as you have heard, too successful in placing that call. However, in desperation, we are going to try one final attempt. It's called Play the Odds. After a technical consultation with our engineering staff to determine what type of telephone system prevails in Cuba today, we arrived at the conclusion that it is either a 4-digit telephone system or 4-digit plus prefix. Now, all we need to do is find the proper digits and put them in the proper places and place the call. After a highly technical meeting with our local Ouija board operator, we came up with two numbers, 4 and 7, which seem very promising on the Ouija board. But that's only two numbers. Well, let's multiply that by 2. 4747. Seeing as how those were the only two numbers that appeared on the Ouija board.
Operator, may I help you?
Yes, operator. I'd like to place a long-distance telephone call.
Okay.
Okay. It's person-to-person to Fidel Castro.
Who?
Fidel Castro, Havana, Cuba. And the number is 4747.
What's the complete number, sir?
That's it, 4747.
Where's this at?
In Havana.
Well, they have more numbers than that there, sir.
They do? I have 4747.
Just a moment. Havana numbers and directory.
Right. That's Havana, right?
Is that right, sir?
What is that?
Havana.
Yes, Cuba.
You want Havana, Cuba?
Yes.
Okay, excuse the ring. I thought you said Havana, Georgia.
No.
Just a moment.
Hello?
Cuba.
Yes, I would like to place a person-to-person phone call, please. In Cuba, in Havana. The number is 4747. Person-to-person. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, person-to-person to Fidel Castro.
Your name and telephone number?
Yes, Jim Ferguson, WHAS Radio, Louisville, Kentucky, 582-7840.
582 what, sir?
7840.
And the area code?
502.
Hey, hello?
Yes.
Okay, sir, we have no delay. The operator will be calling you soon.
Repeat?
We have no delay. The operator will be calling you soon.
Okay, she calls me back?
Yes.
Okay. We'll be at this number.
You can hang up.
Yes.
You can hang up.
Yes.
The operator will call you back.
Very good. Thank you.
You placed a call to Havana, Cuba?
Yes, I did.
Okay, sir, what is the telephone number you're calling?
4747.
And who are you calling?
Fidel Castro, person-to-person.
This is incorrect for Havana, Cuba, sir.
Do what, ma'am?
You need more numbers than this.
More numbers?
Yes.
I have from very reliable sources 4747. What else is
And
there?
Havana is not the right city.
Havana is not the right city?
No.
What is the right city?
I do not know, sir. You have to have all the information when you call the operator.
I was given this number on...
This number is incorrect for Havana, Cuba.
Uh-huh. Is an additional prefix problem?
I don't know.
Huh.
Cuba has quite a few cities. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Well, This was the number that was given me, 4747.
This is incorrect.
Is there a possibility that there's an additional prefix?
I would know.
Uh-huh. Very good. Well, may I have your number where I could call you back if I get the prefix?
My number?
Yes.
7100.
7100.
Yes, and when you get the right number, you can call back.
A couple of years earlier at WHAS, I had produced a series of reenactments of the Christmas story with wise men, Mary at the Inn, shepherds, and Julius Caesar, etc. This was in the form of a series of live news reports, as if the story was unfolding at the time. I had used about every staff member I could find for voice tracks. It was called the 6 o'clock News. Unfortunately, that award-winning series of master tapes has disappeared. I guess one of the few times I was unsuccessful in retaining the masters. I used to joke about keeping my masters. I would say, "My mama didn't raise no fool. I'm keeping the master. You can have the dub." Well, anyway, subject at hand. The 1776 news desk. It was along the same lines. An unfolding news story broadcast in sequence throughout the day of July 4th, 1976.
Now from the 1776 news desk, here's Glenn Baston.
Perhaps an historic event in Philadelphia today, rumors from undisclosed sources have it that a Declaration of Independence from Great Britain has been or will be signed in that city by members of the Continental Congress. Now, you may recall we reported last month that there had been introduced to the Congress a resolution. It was introduced by Virginia Delegate Richard Henry Lee.
These united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved.
Now for public reaction to the story, we switch to Jim Ferguson on the streets of Louisville.
We're at the intersection of Jefferson and 5th, and we're speaking to various people at random. Sir, may I have your name?
I'm Louis Snyder.
Lou, what do you think about this alleged signing of the Declaration of Independence today?
Well, I understand this fellow Jefferson's the one that wrote it. Is that right?
They have alluded to this fact, yes.
Well, I think that Mr. Jefferson and his friends, they sound like a bunch of real, real instigators, real troublemakers. They liable to be in a whole lot of trouble before this thing's over with.
You're not exactly in favor of this declaration. Is that the feeling I'm getting?
Oh, I didn't say that, but the King's got a long arm, and King's liable to come over here and lean on us before this thing's over with.
You think that we might be stepping into something bigger than what we think we are?
Oh, definitely. We fellas may have bitten off more than they can chew.
Well, have you heard any about this declaration? What's in it?
No. I just, all I know is what the boys down at the King's Head Tavern tell me.
What do they say about it?
Well, they're not sure.
But it is being discussed, and you have heard about it.
Yeah, but I think for a lot of people, they think, this is just sort of a rich folks' quarrel. They're quibbling among themselves, and, Jefferson and Madison and all those guys, they're kind of, rich plantation boys from down in Virginia, and the King and all his crowd, and maybe rich folks are.
So for us average citizens, it probably won't mean too much, even if they do sign it.
Stay with us for further developments as they happen. I'm Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit of a new song to be sung with harmony and peace for all to know? Yes, I feel the
spirit. Now from the 1776 news desk, here's Glenn Baston.
With the continuing story of this reported signing of the Declaration of Independence, we at the 1776 News Desk have just confirmed to some degree that it was indeed Representative Thomas Jefferson who did the primary drafting of the document that has reportedly been submitted to Congress for adoption. We got some reaction to that from Jefferson County Judge Todd Hollenbach. We reached him at his home this afternoon by phone.
I think it's probably a good thing. I don't know, this guy Jefferson might be president someday if they if they have things going right, it could be the King of America, too, I guess. He's a pretty smart fellow, I understand. He's written some books and tell me he's a lawyer and a surveyor. A fellow designs buildings, invents things. I understand he's a farmer. He'd probably fit in good here in Kentucky. They also tell me he's edited an edition of the Bible, so he's, you know, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. I guess he knows what he's doing on this thing, and if it gives us the kind of freedom that they've talked about from those British, I'm for him.
Well, we wanted to ask you about that. Have you heard parts of what might be in that declaration?
Well, it's supposed to give us understand religious freedom, which I think is pretty important, and free us from the rule of the king, and of course I'm for that. And I don't know what it's going to mean, but I imagine that the old king won't give up too easy, but I think we're a little bit rougher and tougher and know this frontier a little bit better than he does, so I'd hope he'd just stay in England and take all his people's sympathizers back over there. They'll be a lot better off.
Well, what about the aspect now that portions of that declaration, as we've heard it, might be considered treasonous?
Well, if it talks about the freedoms of mankind, I guess that is treasonous to England, because they don't have any freedoms over there. That's why most of our folks and forefathers left that place to begin with. If it's treason, it's the kind of treason I like.
That was Jefferson County Judge Todd Hollenbach talking with Jim Ferguson. At this time, we have not been able to reach Thomas Jefferson personally for comment. It's thought he may be out of town for the holiday. Our 1776 news reporters continue to work on leads. We'll be back as soon as they develop. This is Glenn Baston.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land. Can you feel the spirit? Yes, I feel the spirit.
Now from the 1776 news desk, here's Glenn Baston.
This story of the signing of the Declaration of Independence continues to develop, and now at the 1776 news desk we have received what is said to be a copy of that document. In part it says, and I quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and institute a new government." It goes on to suggest that the King of Great Britain has set up an absolute tyranny over these states, and then further states, in every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Now, that is a portion of what this Declaration of Independence says, the copy of it that we have obtained. Let's get some more reaction now to the entire idea of declaring independence on the streets of Louisville. Here's Jim Ferguson.
We're on the riverfront Belvedere, and I'm speaking with
Yvonne Gardner.
Yvonne. What do you think about this alleged signing of the Declaration of Independence today?
I think it's about time it should happen.
Why?
Because we've been dependent on the mother country for so long, and we should start our own. We have this whole new country, and we can grow our own stuff. We don't need anybody else's help. And that's it.
Well, what about, we're talking probably about war at this point.
Okay, if we have to fight with them, we'll fight them. We know how to do it. They taught us how to do it. We can use a little bit of their ways to fight them back. And if we want this country to be free as we want it, we're going to have to fight for it.
What have you heard about this Declaration of Independence that they're supposed to be signing today?
I heard it was a good thing going. There's things in there that was for everybody to be free and equal and all sorts of good things.
That was Jim Ferguson on the streets of Louisville talking to some Louisvillians about this reported document that concerns independence, a Declaration of Independence. Whether it has been adopted or submitted for adoption, we do not know. The story continues to develop. We'll stay with it. You stay with us. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land.
Now from the 1776 News Desk, here's Glenn Baston.
As this story has continued to develop out of Philadelphia, the story of the signing or possible signing of the Declaration of Independence today, our political correspondent Bob Johnson has been listening and watching the developments. You heard earlier, Bob, our reading of a portion of the document. You've had some time now to think about it. What is your reaction?
I'm struck by the audacity of it all. What these men propose in this document is treason, and they have very few tools to carry out what they intend to do. They have no army. They have little navy. What navy they have is strictly merchant marine, and yet they purport to defy one of the great European powers. It is audacious, to say the least. It is that in another sense, too. The grievances that they list in this document are real enough, but it is also an example of the audacity of this document that implicit in all of this, they intend to set up a new governmental framework in which these grievances are righted. This is something that revolution is one thing under these circumstances. Men can make revolution. They have made revolution in the past, but they have rarely made revolution under these circumstances with the promise that the society they intend to construct after the revolution will have so many of these grievances corrected. It is at best an audacious undertaking, and I wish them well.
Thank you, Bob Johnson, our political analyst for 1776 News. We expect new developments to continue to come out of Philadelphia. We're going to keep watching them. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land. Can you feel the spirit? Yes, I feel the spirit.
Now from the 1776 News Desk, here's Glenn Baston.
This story of the signing of the Declaration of Independence continues to develop. Let's get some more reaction now to the entire idea of declaring independence. On the streets of Louisville, here's Jim Ferguson.
Okay, we're on the Riverfront Belvedere, and I'm speaking with
Arnold Smith.
Mr. Smith, what do you think about this alleged signing of the Declaration of Independence today?
Well, I think that was something that we finally had to come to. I don't think they originally wanted to do that, but finally I think King George forced it on us, and there's nothing else we could do. So I'm for it.
Well, this, of course, probably means all-out war.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I think they had took that into account. Benjamin Franklin said, we'll all hang together or we'll hang separately.
What do you think this might mean for us in the future?
Well, it's kind of hard to say. We don't know much about what's west of here. This is as far west as I've ever been. I don't think there's too much west. It's all Indian country and forests, wild animals. But from here on east, I think you'll see some great cities along this river. And I think one of these days you'll see New York or Boston, Philadelphia. I think they'll be up to probably, I don't know, 50, 60,000 people maybe.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
That was Jim Ferguson on the streets of Louisville talking to some Louisvillians about this reported document that concerns independence, a Declaration of Independence. The story continues to develop. We'll stay with it. You stay with us. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land.
Now from the 1776 News Desk, here's Glenn Baston.
We've been attempting to reach General George Washington for insight as to what this possible signing of a Declaration of Independence might mean from the military point of view. We understand at this time General Washington and his troops are located in the vicinity of Brooklyn Heights, New York. However, communications are poor in that area, and we've not been successful in contacting General Washington. We do have on the line at this time, live, Major General John McHenry. He is the commanding general of Fort Knox, the military installation just to the south of Louisville. General McHenry, if this Declaration of Independence is in fact signed today in Philadelphia, what will it mean to our Continental Army?
Well, I think what it will really mean is that the Army will finally be supported in the way it needs to be if the American people want to be free. As you know, it's been hit and miss, and support has been less than we need for our Army if we're to be victorious. Things have not been going well for us right now, and until we get the support of the entire people, there's no possible way that we can win this victory. But I think the signing of the Declaration will be a big step in this direction.
General McHenry, we've been attempting to reach General Washington in Brooklyn Heights, but we've not been successful so far. Have you heard how things are going there?
Well, quite frankly, it doesn't look good. We've been forced to retreat from Long Island and other portions of New York and from near Canada. And we frankly have serious difficulties, and we need more people, and we need more supplies.
And perhaps this declaration might achieve that.
Yes, hopefully it'll unite our 13 states.
Thank you, Major. Major General John McHenry. He is the commanding general of Fort Knox. We'll continue to watch developments. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land. Can you feel the spirit? Yes, I feel the spirit.
Now from the 1776 News Desk, here's Glenn Baston.
We have now managed to reach the headquarters of General George Washington in Brooklyn Heights, New York by radio telephone patch. General Washington, can you hear me? Are you there?
This is General Washington. Go ahead.
General Washington, we wanted to ask you if you are now aware of this document called the Declaration of Independence. The rumor has it will be signed today.
Yes, we received an advance copy of the Declaration of Independence, and I had it read to the troops in a hope that this very important event will serve as a fresh incentive to every officer and soldier to act with fidelity and courage. Things have been rather difficult here in New York.
General Washington, what is your situation with the military?
Well, late June, the British and Hessian mercenary troops numbered about 30,000. They were landed at Staten Island there in late June, and we've been standing by here.
That's a rather large army, General. How does that compare with your Continental Army contingent? Do they have the upper hand in terms of troop strength?
No, I really, for security, we really can't get into that.
Well, yes, I can understand that. But back to this Declaration of Independence. Has it had an effect on the troops, the men, since you read it to them?
I think we have already seen here at Brooklyn Heights tremendous improvement in the morale of our soldiers. They feel now that perhaps the whole country is becoming united.
General, can you tell me...
I'm sorry, you'll have to excuse me at this time. A couple of my scouts have just returned with new information on the British movements, and I must speak with them.
Yes, thank you, sir. That was an interview with General George Washington. He is commander of the Continental Army. They are now in Brooklyn Heights, New York. The story is continuing. We're continuing to watch it. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit of a new song to be sung with harmony and peace for all to know? Can you feel the spirit? Yes, I feel the spirit.
Now from the 1776 news desk, here's Glenn Baston.
As it becomes clear hour by hour that indeed a Declaration of Independence will be signed today, we have sought comment and reaction from various people. We at this time have in our studios the Governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Governor Julian Carroll. Governor Carroll, what's your position?
Well, of course, it's a very grave occasion for all of us who want to be Americans in our own right. We've really been faithful to our father country, but our father country has not been faithful to our rights. And thus we have only one alternative, that's to seek our own independence. And obviously we do so with mixed emotions because it's breaking our ties with our old country. But we're establishing new ties for what we think will become the greatest country on earth, America.
Governor, what immediate repercussions will this have in your view?
Our very lives might be at stake, but while our lives may be taken for this act, we certainly will provide freedom for millions of Americans to enjoy that freedom to eternity.
Thank you, Governor Julian Carroll, for dropping by our studios. This is Glenn Baston, continuing to watch developments from the 1776 news desk.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land.
Now from the 1776 news desk, here's Glenn Baston.
This story of the signing of the Declaration of Independence continues to develop. Let's get some more reaction now to the entire idea of declaring independence. On the streets of Louisville, here's Jim Ferguson.
We're on the Riverfront Belvedere, and I'm speaking with
Marie Benitez.
Marie. It's alleged that the signing of the Declaration of Independence is going to happen today. Have you heard about the Declaration?
Yes, I have.
What have you heard?
I've heard that they're going to sign, or they're thinking about it, and I'm quite excited about it.
What aspects of the Declaration have you heard about?
Being on our own, being free to do not like we want, that type of thing.
Of course, this might mean war with England.
Well, we're already in that, so if it's worth it, so I'm for it.
Have you been a part of any of the things that have happened so far?
Yes, I've been working with the women in getting the supplies together and listening to the men talk, so forth and so on.
What are they saying? How do they feel about this declaration?
Most of them are are excited about it and want to go through with it. There are some who have reservations because, what could happen.
That was Jim Ferguson on the streets of Louisville talking to some Louisvillians about this reported document that concerns independence, a Declaration of Independence. The story continues to develop. We'll stay with it. You stay with us. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 news desk.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land.
Now from the 1776 news desk, here's Glenn Baston.
We've been attempting to reach the man who allegedly was primarily responsible for the drafting of this Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson. But at this point, we have not. We have him on the line now, I'm told. Is this Thomas Jefferson?
Yes, sir, it is.
Mr. Jefferson, rumor has it that, in fact, you were the guiding hand of this Declaration of Independence. Will you confirm that?
Well, I did have something to do with it. Actually, I suppose it's been said of me that I was the architect of it. However, I contributed to it, but along with a number of other people. I can't take sole responsibility or sole credit for it. However, I believe that if I did contribute a great deal to it, it was in framing it, in the framework, the legal terms, and that sort of thing. And, of course, some ideas of my own which were accepted after they had been brought before the other group of men who were involved, indeed, in forming the Declaration. I stand, as everyone must, on his own acts, and if there is difficulty over this, or if I am a treasonous person because of it, then so be it. I did what I felt was right. We are establishing freedom. We are not being treasonous to anyone. It's going to give us something to look to. It's going to give us a foundation for the country itself, And it's going to show at last to the rest of the world that it doesn't have to live under the yoke of another nation which is oppressing it. And that has, to my knowledge, not been done in centuries. And I think it's important. We have a whole new land here to develop, a huge land. And I believe that if we go about it with this kind of precept at the beginning, we're going to show the world a shining light. I believe that it's the best thing that we could possibly do, and indeed, under the circumstances of oppression, the only thing we could do.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas Jefferson. We'll continue to seek out comment on the Declaration of Independence, and the moment we get confirmation that it has been signed, we'll let you know. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit?
Now from the 1776 News Desk, here's Glenn Baston.
At this point, it looks as though the signing of a Declaration of Independence is almost a certainty. It is also almost a certainty that when it is signed, it will also be a declaration of war with Great Britain. Louisville Alderman Jerry Abramson responds to the war aspect of this Declaration of Independence.
Sometimes principles have to be backed up by the muscle and the gut of the human beings who feel so strongly that they're being kept under shackles and made to be subservient to a governmental entity hundreds of thousands of miles away in England that has no feeling whatsoever for exactly what's going on in these colonies and what the needs of these people in these townships are. And I suspect you can only be pushed so far until finally you throw up your hands and say, the system doesn't work, the system's got to be changed, and after peaceful attempts to bring about a change, which we've gotten nowhere whatsoever in terms of any type of recognition by the King of England, I suspect that sometime there is a necessity for a call to arms, and that point has arisen.
Reaction to the Declaration of Independence from Louisville Alderman Jerry Abramson. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land. Can you feel the spirit? Yes, I feel the spirit.
Now from the 1776 News Desk, here's Glenn Baston.
This story of the signing of the Declaration of Independence continues to develop. Let's get some more reaction now to the entire idea of declaring independence. Here's Jim Ferguson.
We're on the streets of Louisville speaking to various people at random about this alleged signing of the Declaration of Independence. Sir, may I have your name?
My name is Sam Gifford.
What do you think it's going to mean to you if they have signed it or do sign it?
Well, I think it's going to mean the beginning of something that's pretty hard to foretell. We're struggling pretty hard right now.
There have been quite a few skirmishes in the past 3 or 4 years with the British already, and
we've had great problems, and one of the problems is trying to get everybody to think along the same lines, and we have some fine leaders, but even the leaders disagree as to what the ultimate Declaration of Independence should contain. And it seems to me that unless there is pretty much unanimous agreement, it's going to be very difficult to get anything off the ground.
Right, now, if it is signed, it's kind of treasonous almost.
Well, that's why we're here in the first place. The chance was taken when we left to come over here, and I don't see any reason why we should be afraid of that now. The decision was made a long time ago, and it's important for us to go ahead and follow through with the plans and the ideas that we had originally.
So if the Declaration of Independence indeed has been signed today, you would be in favor of it?
Absolutely.
That was Jim Ferguson on the streets of Louisville talking to some Louisvillians about this reported document that concerns independence, a Declaration of Independence. The story continues to develop. We'll stay with it. You stay with us. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land.
Now from the 1776 news desk, here's Glenn Baston.
We have on the line at this time Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania. Mr. Franklin, you were on the committee that was appointed to draft this Declaration of Independence, along with Thomas Jefferson of Virginia, John Adams of Massachusetts, Roger Sherman of Connecticut, and Robert Livingston of New York. What was the thinking of the committee when they were drafting it?
Well, I believe that, first of all, probably it was one of the few times in history that people in the military and political area of life got together and really felt the same way, and we were trying to establish guidelines for the whole country, for a new nation, and we're trying to do this with fairness as we saw it, and something that would really be important to them all their lives and important to the future generations. We weren't as much concerned with just the moment as we were, I believe, with the generation which will follow. This land is going to develop. It's going to be, we think, a huge land, and we want something that will be effective, not just today, but tomorrow as well. You know, actually, the franchise is the common right of free men, the right to vote, you see. It's really his only expression. It's one time a right, a privilege, and a weapon. In this case, it was a weapon, too, because we actually had to fight off tyranny and oppression. We have fought hard to establish ourselves, and now we have proven that we can do it.
That was Benjamin Franklin, one of the 5 men who served on the committee that drafted this Declaration of Independence. I'm Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land.
Now from the 1776 news desk, here's Glenn Baston.
This story of the signing of the Declaration of Independence continues to develop. Let's get some more reaction now to the entire idea of declaring independence. Here's Jim Ferguson.
We're on the streets of Louisville speaking to various people at random concerning this alleged signing of the Declaration of Independence today. Sir, may I have your name?
I'm Bob Carhart.
Bob, what do you think about this signing of the Declaration of Independence?
I think it's going to be pretty good for everybody.
Have you heard about the Declaration?
Yeah, I'm very interested in it. As a matter of fact, been following the goings-on fairly closely.
What aspects of the Declaration interest you, or you find interesting?
I think that the fact that we're going to consider each person on an equal basis, men, women, black, white, I think that concerns me most of all. I have great faith that the future holds things that we'll probably break away and become our own man, so to speak.
Are you saying that you might be actively involved in this thing?
Yes, but on an undercover basis.
That was Jim Ferguson on the streets of Louisville talking to some Louisvillians about this reported document that concerns independence, a Declaration of Independence. The story continues to develop. We'll stay with it. You stay with us. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land.
Now from the 1776 News Desk, here's Glenn Baston.
In trying to get some perspective of what has prompted this Declaration of Independence, there has been some turmoil, particularly in the Boston area over the past few years, as some have defied the decrees of King George. One of the leaders of these activities has been Samuel Adams. Mr. Adams is on the line now. And Mr. Adams, you have been called a radical.
My response to that is that whenever anyone does anything which is unpopular to a group, especially in this case a group of oppressors, they are called radicals. Well, I'm fighting for a cause I'm proud of, and if that makes me a radical, then I'm proud of that too, and I'll continue to be a radical. I want to be a thorn in their side as long as I live, because it's time somebody spoke out against them, and I'm speaking out against them at every opportunity on street corners and everywhere else. I lead any movement I can which is against the British, against oppression, taxation, and the taking away of the freedom of man.
You were involved with what's been called the Boston Massacre.
Yes, of course. I was a part of it. I'm proud to have been a part of it. I'm sorry about the men who lost their lives, but I must say this, they laid down their lives willingly. They knew what was going to happen, or at least they felt it was a strong possibility, and we did that to let the world see the kind of people we were dealing with.
Well, thank you, Mr. Adams, for talking with us. That was Samuel Adams, who incidentally is a relative of John Adams, one of the men who is involved in the drafting of this Declaration of Independence. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit?
Now from the 1776 News Desk, here's Glenn Baston.
We're still watching events in Philadelphia, waiting for some word out of the Congress on the possible signing of a Declaration of Independence from Great Britain. Our man Jim Ferguson continues to get reaction on the streets of Louisville to the reports we've had so far. Let's check in with him again. Jim?
We're on the riverfront Belvedere, and I'm speaking with
Yvonne Gardner.
Yvonne. What do you think about this signing of the Declaration of Independence today?
I think it's about time it should happen
Why?
because we've been dependent on the mother country for so long. And
Jim, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to interrupt you right now and go to Philadelphia. Melanie Roberts is there, and she is on the line with us at this moment.
Glenn, the Congress has adjourned and the members have left the chamber. However, all have refused to comment. There are some indications, though, that they may have indeed signed a Declaration of Independence. Those members known to be favoring the document, Jefferson, Franklin, and the like, seem to be in a rather jubilant mood. And I got a look at the vote totaling board before the doors to the chamber were closed and locked. It showed a unanimous vote by the colonies on something. And one other thing, you may hear a bell in the background. Well, a few minutes ago, the bell atop the building where Congress meets began ringing. Now, this normally is reserved for some special message or warning. When I asked one of the members of Congress about the bell, he said you might call it the Liberty Bell.
Can you feel the spirit?
Now from the 1776 News Desk, here's Glenn Baston.
Well, as we reported earlier, a Declaration of Independence has been signed in Philadelphia. Louisville Mayor Harvey Sloan, who has been tied up with some problems of his own in this city throughout this week, took time out a little while ago to hold a news conference to talk about the signing.
Now, about 13 colonies have accepted the idea that they are now on their own. Benjamin Franklin has said that, and I quote, "The franchise, meaning the vote, is the common right of free men." My hope is that the Declaration will pave the way for greater participation of Americans, men and women, young and old, black and white, in their new government. We declared our independence in order to promote freedom and democracy.
That was Louisville Mayor Harvey Sloan. We've had reports out of Philadelphia that there have been bells ringing throughout that city. This is normally reserved for some sort of warning. But we understand that there has been no problem. It could have been connected with the signing of the Declaration of Independence. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
Can you feel the spirit of 200 years ago? The spirit that is lifting up the land. Can you feel the spirit? Yes, I feel the spirit.
Now from the 1776 News Desk, here's Glenn Baston.
Well, we thank you for having joined us this July 4th. Indeed, our Declaration of Independence has been signed, and its effects are being felt more today than ever before. Let us be extremely thankful for July 4th, 1776. This is Glenn Baston at the 1776 News Desk.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
Perhaps an historic event in Philadelphia today.
Created equal.
King's got a long arm, and King's liable to come over here and lean on us before this thing's over with.
That it was indeed Representative Thomas Jefferson who did the primary drafting of the document.
Of happiness.
I don't know, this guy Jefferson might be president someday if they have things going right. It could be the king of America too, I guess.
Deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
I think it's about time it should happen.
Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends,
I am struck by the audacity of it all.
People
to alter or to abolish it.
Benjamin Franklin said, we'll all hang together or we'll hang separately.
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America,
The Army will finally be supported in the way it needs to be if the American people want to be free.
Intentions.
They feel now that perhaps the whole country is becoming united.
These united colonies are, and
our very lives might be at stake.
Independent states.
I've been working with the women in getting the supplies together.
The connection between them and the state of Great Britain is...
It's going to give us something to look to. It's going to give us a foundation.
They have full power to levy war.
I suspect that sometime there is a necessity for a call to arms.
Other acts and things.
It's important for us to go ahead and follow through with the plans and the ideas that we had originally.
Firm reliance on the protection of divine providence. We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Air checks. I love these little audio time capsules. This one from early 1978. February to be exact. I can just hear it now. Better put your coat on, 'cause baby, it's cold outside.
The weather, 84, cloudy, windy with falling temperatures this afternoon and period of light snow. Clearing, very cold tonight with a low near 0. Mostly sunny and cold Monday with a high in the teens. Winds northwest to northerly, 15 to 5 miles per hour this afternoon through tomorrow. The probability of measurable precip, 20% for this afternoon. Currently 28 degrees in the Louisville area of Kentucky.
84 HAS Weekend. That I've always dreamed of. I saw your face and that's the last I've seen of my heart.
Firefall, 11:33. You are the woman. Certainly are. Your name is Peg. Well, good morning to you, Peg. It's Jim Ferguson with you from HAS.
Your name is lights above it.
Steely Dan, Peg at 11:37 from HAS.
Remember the 4th of July? Remember how warm it was? Today, noon to 5. Mutual and Preston stores only.
And we have a correction. The Sunday sale will be at the Mutual store only.
There's a deflected pass inside, and Roby picks it off. Macy deflected it. Scheidler running it down the right side. Goes over to the middle of the floor. Throws underneath the Phillips. Puts it in.
UK defeats Indiana. UK edges past Notre Dame. UK beats Florida. UK, University of Kentucky. Take their brand of basketball and K-Wood's play-by-play. And you've got roaring good Wildcat basketball. Right here, 84 HAS.
You'll be sure and hear UK Auburn Monday night. K-Wood calls the action. Starts at 6:40 right here on 84. 11:39. Willie Nelson, I would have to be absolutely cuckoo.
I'd have to be crazy, plumb out of my mind, to fall out of love with you.
Willie Nelson, cowboy, have to be kind of crazy to fall out of love with you. It's 11:42 from WHAS. Good morning to you. 28 degrees and cloudy, windy, falling temperatures scheduled for this afternoon. And a period of light snow. Also, as they would say, Japan.
Guess I knew it all along. I'd have to come back home.
amazing rhythm aces. The end is not in sight. Well, about 3 hours and 15 minutes. It's 11:45. Johnny Rivers got a curious mind.
Through the park, it wasn't quite dark. There was a man sitting on a bench.
Johnny Rivers got that curious mind at 11:48 from HAS. Good morning.
Attention general contractors, fleets, service stations, automotive garages, and the general public. There's a huge tool liquidation and will continue through Monday.
WHAS.
It's 11:49, and the Captain and Tennille get out the shopping basket here.
Just because you become a young woman now, there's still some things that you don't understand now. Before you ask some guy for his hand now, you keep your freedom for as long as you can now. My mama told me you better shop around. Oh yeah, you better shop around.
What you better do, better get out that shopping list and take care of business. 11:52 from 84, 28 degrees, cloudy, windy, falling temperatures this afternoon. Probabilities of measure will increase of 20% for this afternoon. Here's Rod Stewart, Tonight. Tonight's the night.
Stay away from my window. Stay away from my back door.
Qu'est-ce qu'il va dire, maman?
I'm going to get my French translator to working on this, make sure nothing strange is being said on the air, since I don't understand French. I just catch the drift a little bit. That's why I wanted to check it out, I think. It's 11:56 on HAS, 28 degrees. Barry Botkin, and not just the... Bodkin, Not Just Theme on WHAS with 28 degrees, cloudy, windy with falling temperatures scheduled for this afternoon and a period of light snow. Clearing, very cold tonight with our low predicted down near zero. So bundle up for tonight for sure.
Hi, everybody. This is Kaywood Ledford inviting you to join me Monday at 6:40 right here on WHAS Louisville.
CBS News. We still don't know what President Carter and President Sadat of Egypt are discussing today at Camp David. But if they're talking about the sale of American fighter planes...
Your desire to know comes first. Anytime. From Kentuckiana's news leader.
I like to be around groovy people. I'm talking about people.
Lou Rawls talking about those groovy people. It's 12:10. Good afternoon. Welcome. Jim Ferguson with you on HAS. A super hit for Samantha Sang. Just Sweet Emotion.
It's over and done, but the heartache lives on inside.
Samantha Sang, Just Sweet Emotion.
WHAS.
We recall George Harrison, Little Cracker Box Palace. Used to be an ice palace in Kentucky, and hopefully that is doing something instead of just laying there.
I was so young when I was born. My eyes could not yet see. And by the time my first dawn,
George Harrison, Cracker Box Palace. Let's check in and see what's happening in Cracker Box Palace.
Who would you like to kiss on St. Valentine's Day?
I don't understand this at all.
Never felt like this until I kissed you. How did I exist until I kissed you? Oh yeah, I kissed you.
Everly Brothers, 1959. Until I kissed you. I tell you, I better take a cold shower.
What better season to stay at home and shop by phone?
Star Drapery. So don't forget the Trend Sunday Sale, featuring 4th of July wallet-warming prices. Today, noon to 5. Mutual and Preston stores only.
Well, 23, we have a correction on that. That Sunday sale going on today will be at the Mutual store only. So that's where you need to be. 28 degrees, WHAS, Hollands.
Baby hair with a woman's eyes. I can feel you watching in the night. Make me feel like a man not keeping me crazy, crazy.
Daryl Hall, John Oates, and Sarah Smiles. 1226 at HAS with 28 degrees. Louisville area of Kentucky. Anna Crystal Gale has a new one ready for the times to get better.
I've got to tell you, I've been racking my brain, hoping to find a way out.
Crystal Gale is ready for the good times to get better. I have been ready for that for a long time. I don't know exactly how that's going to come about, but I'm waiting. It's 28 degrees in Louisville. Jim Ferguson on HAS Sunday afternoon. We're checking sports. And just a short, here's Boz Skaggs. Lowdown. Boz Skaggs getting a lowdown. Well, we are going to get the sports lowdown right now, so hang on. Here's Win Elliott.
Win Elliott Sports Central USA, sponsored in part by Emory, the Air Force and Air Freight in the Olympic Invitational Track and Field.
84 HAS Weekend. Times have come here, but now they're gone. Come on, baby, don't feel the
Blue Oyster Cult, Do Not Fear the Reavers. 1240 from WHAS.
Let Green Tree Mall and the Home Builders Association of Southern Indiana show you how to turn your house into a castle.
10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and will continue through Monday.
Weather 84, cloudy, windy with falling temperatures scheduled for this afternoon and a period of light snow clearing. Very cold tonight with a low near zip 0. Mostly sunny, cold tomorrow with a high in the teens. 28 degrees currently in the Louisville area of Kentucky. And at 1242, what happens when you put Paul Simon Simon and Garfunkel and James Taylor together? Does it sound like this?
What a wonderful, wonderful world this would be. What a wonderful, 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 wonderful world. What a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Simon and Garfunkel, James Taylor, and what a wonderful world this would be, particularly when it's the right time of the night. Certainly, it's 12:45. Fortunately, at this moment in the afternoon, anyway, Jennifer Warren with us, right time of the night.
Sun goes down on a silky day, quarter moon walking through the Milky Way. It's the right time of the night. The stars are waking up.
Jennifer Warren. yours. It is the right time of the night.
Remember the 4th of July? Remember how warm it was?
Carly Simon, nobody, but nobody does it better than, of course, on the other end of the spectrum, you have the guy that just could not, under any circumstances, get it right.
Time was drifting.